Hello, everyone. My name is Rich Moscoso, Senior Field Applications Engineer for AVer ProAV. And today I want to discuss our audio tracking software. It's called PTZ Link. I did create an earlier video covering the basic free version. This video is going to cover the premium version. As always, you can reach me at rich.moscoso@aver.com. But just as a quick review, the previous video focused on the basic free edition, where it's connected via the network only, and it gives you the ability to create 5 groups, support of up to 8 audio channels, and a 60-day free trial of premium, but that's for Windows only. That's not available for Mac. But the free version is available for Mac. The premium version, which is what we're going to discuss here in a minute, does have additional support for more groups or camera pairings, up to 128 channels of audio. But the cool thing is that now you have the ability to connect up to 5 USB cameras and have the video that's on the call automatically switch depending on which channel is high or active. Also, there is the ability to enable or disable the tracking from the PTZ Link software as well. As always, there's system requirements, so keep that in mind when you're building this out and putting this together. You will need to supply your own technology for the room or for that space. As mentioned before, PTZ Link works when paired with either Shure, Sennheiser, or Yamaha. So like Shure, MXA 910, 710, 310. I actually have a 310 in my setup. Also the MXCW series. MX 920 is in the works, meaning this guy works a little different as far as the positioning of the channel or lobe. It's using XYZ coordinates. So I don't have a version that supports this yet. I also don't have a 920 to fully understand how that's going to look like with PTZ Link. And then the Sennheiser TCC2 and the Yamaha RMCG as well. As always, with any setup, make sure you can dial in the audio channels as best you can. It can be tricky when you're dealing with a room with reflective surfaces, windows, walls that are made of glass, marble tables, that sort of thing. PTZ Link software will trigger based off the mic level. So depending on what the audio mix out is showing as active, that's how the PTZ Link will react. So the idea is that the camera, depending on which channel is active, the camera will switch to a preset that you set up in the camera based on who's speaking. So this could be table left, someone speaking. This could be, this could be table front. When someone's speaking, the camera will snap there. This could be table left, someone's speaking, and the camera can move over to that side of the table. Time to trigger the preset. I'll cover this real quick. Basically, this is to help to avoid the camera bouncing back and forth between camera presets. So basically, if someone coughs or sneezes or says a hum, you probably don't want the camera. Actually, you don't want the camera to bounce over to them because they're typing or sneezing or what have you. So there's a timer, right? Time to trigger that you can set up between a half a second, 1 second, 2, 3, 4, and 5 seconds. So you can define how quickly do you want that camera to snap to that preset. As mentioned before, there is another video covering the basic free edition in more detail. Let me just leave these slides up to kind of show you different ways. Again, this is for the basic free edition. That's one option. The second option is to install the PTZ Link in a remote location on Intel NUC or Mac Mini, such as a closet, credenza, server room, that sort of thing. But the idea is that it has access to that camera network and microphone network, right? To be able to know the status of the mics, interpolate that, and then send a command to the camera to go to preset X, right? Depending on which channel is active. And then therefore the video would change the preset or the position of the camera would then change, and then the USB output would be connected to your technology. So this is another option. Here's a third option. Again, this is covered in more detail in the other video. I'll just leave this here real quick. The free edition has up to 5 groups, basically 5 camera pairings. And this is showing, conference room A, conference room B setup. But imagine if you have 3 rooms, 4 rooms, this supports up to 5 rooms. Just note that each pairing, right, this supports up to 8 channels of audio. So this conference room A could be 8 channels, this conference room B could be 8 channels. So say, for instance, if you have a MXA 910, right, and you have maybe 16 channels in there, then what you would do is this second one would still be referenced as conference room A, but then you would just be selecting the different channels, 9, 10, 11, 12, et cetera, for this, right? So you would use 2 of these pairings essentially for one room that has more than, say, 8 audio channels. All right, so the premium license, right? This is a PTZ Link Pre. MSRP is $999.99. So as mentioned before, this is this will give you the ability to do everything that is discussed in the other video, where cameras at the front of the room pointing towards an audience or a table or a conference room, and we'll go to a preset depending on which lobe or channel is active. But now, say for instance, you have a 2-camera setup, or potentially a 3-camera setup, or maybe even a 4-camera setup, where you have different angles of the room and where people are speaking. So that's where this comes into play, right? So not only the additional groupings or pairings, so 25 groups up to 120 audio channels, that comes into play really like if you have wireless systems as well, where each individual person would have their own mic setup. But you get up to 5 USB camera video streams, and then tracking on off, which I'll show you momentarily. So the way this works is in your video conferencing software, such as Teams or Zoom, you would have a setting once you install PTZ Link software called AVer Virtual Camera. This is what's going to be the source when you really want that USB feed to switch automatically depending on who's the active speaker. So here's a one option, right? You have a 2-camera setup. Again, cameras are networked, and then the USB feeds or connections, I should say, would go to that technology in the room, but also the PTZ Link software would have to be connected to that same or installed on that same technology. And that's because it needs to see these USB streams at one time. So whether it's a 2-camera setup, a 3-camera setup, a 4-camera setup, it's looking at all of those streams and it's creating this AVer virtual camera, right? And then depending on which channel's active, the PTZ Link software will then show that on the call. Here's another potential setup, a little bit busier, but imagine there's a 2-camera setup in a college or university where you would like the front facing, or the camera at the front facing the audience to kind of pan around the room depending on which channel is active. And then this back camera would still be focused on the instructor, professor. But again, the idea is that PTZ Link software would have to be connected to that technology where the USB connections are connected. And then here's a MXCW 640, right? So imagine each one of these is a unique wireless mic. So then you could define 1-camera or 2-camera setup to go to each of these mics dependent, and then define the presets there. So let me exit out of here. So once you go to AVerusa.com, and bring this down here. You would go to AVerusa.com, click on the ProAV tile, close this out, select the support, click right on support, go to software tab here, scroll down, and this is where you will find the PTZ Link software. right? So you just download that for Windows and Mac. I'm on a Windows machine. Mac currently, you can download it for Mac, but it's only the free version, not the premium. So once you download and install it, you should see an icon such as this, as AVer PTZ Link. You open it up, and this is what you will see. You won't see any of this. This will all be blank. But with the premium version, you'll have, so to get the premium version, so if you downloaded the basic, you would actually come here for a license and then ask for a license for that. You could sign up for it. But the idea here, now that, so this will be connected via USB, right? So this is a little bit different. So the way I configured this is you would select link, and then in the premium version, again, you would click here, this caret, and you will have two selections, right? Connect camera via USB. So make sure, you know, your cameras are connected via USB, that they show up in device manager, that you're not getting some weird errors. You know, sometimes if you're using a good USB extender, you might be getting a Windows popping in and out thing, USB not supported, or it's showing up in device manager 1 minute and then it disappears another. That's not a good start, right? So you want to make sure that that connection is stable and that you can actually see it in like, say, my example here with Windows and device manager under cameras. I can actually see the cameras I'm going to be using connected via USB. So I have this TR313V2 and this PTZ310. It's in there, and I have no issues with that, right? So just make sure that's connected and looking good. So then once that's been defined, what you should see now is when you say select camera, are those available ProAV cameras that are connected via USB. So let's say, for instance, here's a TR313V2 connected via USB. I need to then next, I need to type in the microphone IP address. This is needed because it needs to communicate with that. So that's the network connection from this computer for PTZ Link. And then select your mic channels. As I mentioned before, I have an MXA310. It supports actually 4 channels, but let's say I had 2 of them in there. I would still select 8, although I would only be using 4. And then if you wanted to say connect another MXA310 in that space, you would have to do this over again, and then with a different IP address, right, to that MXA310, and then select 8 as well. So for device name, I'm just going to say this is the rear camera tracking. So there is a limit. So, and I want to say it's 18 characters. I'll say link, and it should say your device has been successfully paired. And this is a good thing because you see here, it's this, you can see it says USB. It's kind of hard to see, but it's also in this cyan color or blue color, right? And then if you click up here and on the question mark, it kind of shows you the different device statuses and the icons and what they represent, right? So if it says device offline, that's not a good way to start. This says virtual cam is set to a third-party program, virtual cam is enabled. So that's all good things. So next, what you're gonna wanna do is, and just before I continue, seeing this channel 1 go active is a good thing because that means it's picking me up. So let me stop sharing, kind of bring up this video. What you don't see, and let me bring this down, is I'm actually connected to this MXA310, right? So channel 1, just so you know, channel 1 is facing me. Channel 2, stage left. Channel 3 is more towards the camera side, and then channel 4 is pointed stage right, so in this direction, just so you have an idea of how this guy is set up. And let me share this again, get back into here. So I'm back into PTZ Link. So one of the first things you want to do is now define the presets. So for this rear tracking camera, I'm going to say set preset. right? And it's going to bring up this little window here. This is actually brought in from our Capture Share software. So those of you that are familiar with Capture Share, this is going to look really familiar. But the only reason it brings this up is because it wants to create presets. So for our auto tracking cameras, right, there's some certain presets that I recommend staying away from, right? Because there's special presets, they're reserved presets. So like for instance, preset 1 is special because that's used in presenter mode. Presets 6, 7, 8, and 9 are special. That's reserved for zone tracking. And presets 10, 11, 12, and 13 are used for hybrid mode. So you want to stay away from those presets because you don't want to limit yourself and be kind of overwriting presets that you may be using for tracking, for auto tracking. So again, these cameras support up to 256 presets. You'll notice that if I arrow here, it goes up to it goes from 0 to 255. So that's 256 presets. So I always recommend, you know, pick a range. You know, it could be in the 50s, the 60s, what have you. But I chose the 60s, right? So like let's say if I click on 61, there happens to be a preset already programmed in there. But the idea is that you select your preset first, then you position your camera as to what you want that to look like, right? Where that channel 1 is, right? So I'm going to use channel 1 is going to be preset 61. So you move the camera around, etc., and then you hit save. So I'm just going to bring this here, hit save. Now 62, click on 62. You're not going to have any information in there from a fresh install, but obviously you see my camera actually move. So you move this around, again, position it to where you want it to go, hit save, and that'll save preset number 62. All right, and likewise around your space, around your room, 63 and 64. And I think I have a 64 over here as well, right? So so once you're done with that, once you're happy, you can just close that out, right? Now I'm going to, since I'm not gonna go through the same process again, but you get the idea of how to set up the camera. So I have this other one that I have set up. It's a PTZ 310, and the idea is the same. If you were to say set preset, it's connected via USB. I'm selected there. It brings this up as well for the PTZ 310, but I'll just close that out. I already have this set up, right, using presets 63 and 64. But let me go back to that initial one. Notice there's nothing selected here, right? So in my example, I'm going to go use 61. So when channel 1 goes high, I want it to go to preset 61. And when channel 2 goes high, I'm going to go to 62, right? Those presets that you define. Not only can you have the camera, because this is a auto tracking camera, you can have it go to that preset, but you can also have it automatically trigger the camera to go into a tracking mode, like say presenter mode. So if, let me do a stop share. So if say one camera is pointed towards the front and they're still walking around talking, then you can have the camera just automatically go into presenter mode, right? And then track someone as they're still speaking. And then as someone else speaks, like the rear facing camera, then it'll go to the other camera. So in the Zoom call, I selected the AVer virtual camera that I showed before. And then I'll minimize this here real quick. So it actually, when I walk over here, right, this will be my channel 60 or channel 2, which will then call up preset 62, right, and then moves this camera over here. Likewise, if I begin speaking over here, this is channel 1. I'll have channel 1 going active, and then the camera bounces over here. Now I'm going to begin speaking over here, and this will fire off channel 4, and channel 4 will actually kick in. And then we defined, if channel 4 goes high, that we want our second camera to go to a certain preset. So this is what you'll do. But not only did it send the camera to a certain preset, you're actually getting the video from that camera on the call. So I'll go ahead and start speaking over here, and what you'll see is that the camera or the feed on the call is actually auto switching. So let me just share my screen so you kind of see how that looks like with PTZ. Or actually, let me do this. Let me just share the application. So I'm just sharing that application. Hopefully that's what's being recorded. So that's my channel 1, right, going high. And then let's pretend someone else begins to speak. and channel 2 goes high, and then you'll see the camera kick over here. And likewise, if someone's speaking over here and channel 4 goes high, then the camera or the feed on the call actually switches. And then I'll begin speaking over here, and this is channel 1 going high, and then the other camera will kick in. Notice that on one camera, we see the actual movement, right? That's my TR313V2. And that's actually moving. You can see the movement in between. We do have a feature in the camera called freeze on preset. So you can actually get that video switcher type look. So what would that look like if you call up the camera and you go to the web UI of the camera? And let me see. Let me stop sharing and let me share my whole desktop. So let me share this. So when you put the camera in the network, type in the IP address in a Chrome browser, you can actually go to where it says preset and video freeze while preset. So you can enable that or disable it, right? So let me stop sharing and just so you see what that looks like. So I'm speaking here. I'm going to start speaking over here. This is channel 2. My camera's actually moving, but then I'll just show up, right? Because that's that freeze on preset. So basically that preset's frozen until the camera reaches a destination preset and then releases or enables that destination preset. So I'll begin speaking here and channel 1 goes high, and then you'll see me just appear like that. Also, let me share my screen again. There's a setting here, as I mentioned before, about the tracking. So if it is an auto tracking camera, you can actually have the camera go into presenter mode, right? So for instance, let me come back over here, begin speaking. Channel 2 is over here. The camera comes over here, and then you see me over here. Now I'm going to begin speaking over here, and channel 1 is going to go active. So not only is the camera going to go to this preset, it's also going to enable the camera to go into presenter mode. So if I'm at the front of the room speaking and whatnot, it's just going to follow me, right? It's putting me in that tracking mode, which is pretty cool to have that automatically do that function. Or you could have it, just not doing anything and just leave it off, or have it go into zone mode or go into hybrid mode for that camera. Let me stop share. So hopefully that that makes things a little bit clearer as far as the premium version for PTZ Link audio tracking. Thank you and good luck.